Here's our bare, on-demand, state-of-the-art treater. First day of treating soybeans for the 2024 growing season. The first thing I need to do is start agitating some of our chemical tanks. That way we can get those active ingredients inside the tanks up and moving, so it'll start flowing through the lines when we get them hooked up. Now that I have our fungicide, insecticide, Allevo, and microsurge chemical tanks mixed up, I'm gonna mount them here onto each one of our pump stands. These silver stands are actually weight scales that I put these chemical stands on, and the weight scale, in addition to a flow meter right here up above the motor, that is what determines and makes sure the treater knows how much chemical is actually getting applied when we start treating the soybeans inside the treater. Outside of getting the chemicals all ready for the treater, there is one more thing that I need to check that we have enough of, and that is our seed polymer that goes in the outside of the seed so it flows easier through a planter. So we'll check that up here. Looks like we could use another bag of seed polymer in the hopper, so I'm gonna dump that in up here. That way I know we'll have enough to make it through today. I'm now gonna start pulling out some of the first bags of beans we're gonna start treating. I've had these in here for over 2 weeks. Dad's grabbing a probe from the other shed. We'll probe them, make sure we're within temperature ranges of where we wanna be for treating, and then kick on the treater. Looks like the beans are well over 50 degrees on the thermometer, which is what we're shooting for. So all the beans I moved in here 2 weeks ago, which was right around 60 some units, we'll be able to treat today. All right, so before we start treating, because it gets loud in here, I'm gonna give you guys a rundown of everything that's gonna happen when we start treating. So if we head over here, this is our inlet conveyor. This is where we're gonna be dropping a load or a unit of soybean seed. This is gonna be that untreated seed that goes into the treater, which if we work our way down here, here's our bare, on-demand, state-of-the-art treater, which is gonna be treating everything based on 100 pounds of seed. That way everything will then enter out the backside of the treater over here to our outlet conveyor, which shoots all the way up to our exiting hopper. That is where we will either rebag the seed into one of the white seed bags or into a seed tote, which is the black boxes. Hopefully today we can get about 40 units treated. That would be a good day. Before we jump into it, make sure you throw this video a thumbs up down below. Now let's start treating. To do the treating process very smoothly, we got 3 people that run it. It's me, Mom, and Dad, and explain to you those 3 positions that we each do. I'll have Mom give it to you.
My job is to loop on the bags and bring them over to the dump them in, and then rebag them. I also keep track of all the inventories.
My job is to preload the hopper going into the inlet, feed the treater, and then check everything else in the diagnostics relative to bag weight, cup weight, and then the flow meter, and then help Dawn rebox or bag the beans.
And that means my job is to make sure everything just runs smoothly, run the back end of the treater, get the next batch up and ready, make sure we got the bag weights in there correctly, and prepare the next chemical tote that might be hopping on the stand shortly. Here we go. First bag coming out. We had our Stein rep come, had to see how things were going. think, John?
Looks good to me.
Got the first batch ran through. Now we'll double check to make sure we got the correct application rate on those soybeans by checking one of the reports here on the display. Things are looking good for our report. We're hitting our benchmark of 4.5 fluid ounces per 100 pounds of seed of fungicide and insecticide, as well as our 4.25 fluid ounces per 100 pounds of seed for the inoculant on the 4 bags that we just finished treating. So now Mom's gonna start pulling out some more bags so we can keep treating some different varieties. Time for another bag. Treating those 6 bags of that variety. Now Dad's gonna start taking out another 8 bags of a different variety. Basically what different varieties are different maturity dates or different traits or characteristics of a bean. So the previous ones that we finished were a 1.9 bean. Now we're pulling out some 2.1 beans that we'll start treating here shortly. This is the first time ever that we've been able to treat beans and keep the big overhead door open just because of how unusually warm it's been out this winter. Who knows, that might even mean we have an early spring. So it's nice because then we can start transporting these beans back over to the other shed so we can bring new ones in to keep warming them up. Because it's so nice out, we're actually able to run both forklifts. Here we got Mom on the forklift. She's gonna be taking the treated beans back over to our other shed and bringing back some other beans for us to treat. And Dad and I are gonna keep running with this forklift here to treat the next 8 bags he's gonna dig out. Because it's hard for me to conceptually show on video how long it takes to treat just one single mini bulk bag or box, I figured I'd let you guys guess down below in the comments how long it takes us from the time it enters the treater to the time it exits the treater. How long does that time last? Whoever guesses the closest down below in the comments, I'll pin your comment to the top. So let me know your guesses down below. Because we're now switching varieties, that means I need to get another sample of these soybeans because all the soybeans have a little bit different seed size. And because the treater applies per 100 pounds of seed and it needs to know how many seeds you're gonna run through it, that way it applies the correct rate and formula of treatment on it, which means I needed to grab a cup weight sample of these soybeans that will run over here onto our mini hopper so we can get a cup weight to enter into the treater so we can start figuring out the calculations needed for how much chemical to apply on this variety. Take the soybeans, dump them in here, our mini hopper, fill into this bottom cylinder, level it off, place that on our scale, wait for it to settle, and we come up with a cup weight of 1,096 grams. This variety that we're just getting ready to treat and I ran on the calibration container in particular is a very large seed, and that isn't anything in terms of yield, it's just conditions of where they were grown last year, because the seed that we're treating right now, this wasn't grown in a factory or a plant last year, it was actually grown out in a field that we'll go out again and plant into one of our farms this upcoming season. So the treater gave me a notification saying I needed to add some more product into one of our keg stations. So I'm just gonna start mixing up more of our microsurge, our root inoculant. Basically what this stuff does to the soybeans is it helps the roots nodulate nitrogen out of the soil. So basically giving the plants some stronger and better nitrogen by putting it on the seed. So we're gonna mix this up and we'll add it into our keg station. The reason we dumped the chemical from the 2.5 gallon jug to the 15 gallon container, the larger one, is because for this treater stand and for the flow meter and for the weight system to work correctly, we need everything in one of these 15 gallon drums. So we just gotta manually move it over every once in a while. Not a big deal. This definitely saves us a lot of time compared to the old way we did things, where we had to create big batches of just one consistent chemical, where now everything is on demand. The reason this system is called an on-demand treating system is because we can pull out of any one of these 6 or all 6 at the same time keg stations to create a slurry up here that fills the seed wheel. So like right now, we're using fungicide, insecticide, and microsurge, and say tomorrow or even yet today we choose to move to Allevo and just fungicide, we can do that because each one is plumbed separately up here to meet our seed wheel. And this is different from our previous batch system, which we had over 5 years ago, where in a batch system, we'd have to take the chemicals out of each one of these containers, pour them, measure them into what we would call a large slurry drum, and then at that point, we would be committed to say we were using Allevo and fungicide only. The next soybeans we would treat would have to be fungicide and Allevo only. So that's kind of the benefits of having this on-demand system, is we can easily move in between different recipes and be more efficient in creating different batches. Finish treating and put it back in the box, we got to put zip ties down on the lid, because a lot of these would go on like a seed tender or a trailer, and to prevent the lid from falling off, put a little zip tie down on them. So that's what we're doing after we get them, and we're jockeying around with the lids here. Just finished treating our last bag or unit for the day. Now we're not for sure if we're gonna treat tomorrow or not. Might be loading some more corn trucks over at the bin site. So I'm gonna start taking some of the chemicals out of these lines and reversing them back into the chemical tanks. No different than what people do on sprayers. You don't wanna leave chemical in a line overnight. It can start to build up, gum up. So same thing I'm gonna do here, start reversing some of that chemical back into these lines, since we're not sure if we're gonna treat tomorrow or not. Now I'll take off the tension on each hose. That way it doesn't start to wear down and build a groove into each one of the hoses overnight when we're not running them. I guess I forgot to mention, in addition to the chemicals that we're applying to the seed beans, we're also putting on a lower rate of water. That way it just helps with the coating and coverage on the seed. So we're putting about ½ ounce per 100 pounds of seed. So I'm gonna start filling up our water tank that we have over there at the cake stand. That way we have enough water in there the next day we wanna start treating. And the 2, and the 3, and the 4. Pull it back on. With that, that is day 1 of seed treating. We're gonna keep moving some beans over from the other shed into here to get them warmed up. If you had any questions at all, throw those down below in the comments, whether it's about seed treating, anything else that you saw in today's video, or anything related to farming. I love comments, so throw those down below. Thanks so much everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.